Look, I'm gonna come for a lot of your favorites in this video, and I am really, really sorry. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I am taking the anti-TBR tag. This is something that I have seen on BookTube so often, and it was originally created by Nicole and her books, whose channel I'm going to leave in the description, and you should definitely go and check out her original tag as well. I have quite a lot of opinions about books that I will never read, or books that I have read and I don't want to go back to, and I have a feeling these are going to be some really popular books from YouTube. So I really hope that this doesn't end up in me being like thrown out of the BookTube community. Okay, let's see where we go. Book number 1 is a popular book that everybody has read, but you have absolutely no interest in reading, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I have tried to read this one. I think I've tried it like 3, maybe 4 times by now, but I can't get into it. I'm not a big fantasy reader anyway, but there's something about that book that just doesn't connect with me. I had actually copies of both of the books in duology, but I gave them to a friend of mine because I knew I wasn't going to pick them up. I just knew that this was kind of a losing battle between me and Leigh Bardugo. Question number 2 is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. I think it's going to be Jane Austen's books. I have tried Emma, and I have got Pride and Prejudice on my shelf behind me here. I know I want to read both of them because I want to kind of see what Jane Austen is like as an author. I've heard that she's got some really great books. There's only 6 of them, I think, that she's written that you need to get through. But I've read Emma, I've tried to read Emma, and it just did not click with me. I'm hoping that Pride and Prejudice is going to be a bit different just because it's so popular, because I'm kind of more familiar with the story. I think a big problem for me with Emma is that Clueless is kind of loosely based on Emma. So I've watched Clueless so many times. I just had Alicia Silverstone in my head, or Paul Rudd in my head, or Stacey Dash, or whoever. I just could not get those pictures out of my mind while I was reading Emma. And I think because I've never seen a Pride and Prejudice adaptation, it's probably going to be a little bit different for me with Pride and Prejudice this time. Maybe. There's 2 parts to question 3. So question 3, part A, is a popular author whose books you have no interest in reading. Can I again say Leigh Bardugo? It's kind of Leigh Bardugo. I have tried Six of Crows. I gave it 50 pages the first time. I think the second time I gave it maybe a little bit more, but it's generally around 50 pages that I know that this book isn't really going to work for me. I was at an event a couple of years ago in Dublin where she and Rainbow Rowell read out snippets of their 2 books. So she read out Six of Crows, and I can't remember what Rainbow Rowell read out, but I think I preferred Rainbow Rowell's one because it was more contemporary, whereas Leigh Bardugo writes a lot of fantasy books, and those just generally aren't my cup of tea. Question 3, point B, is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading, and there are so many. I am completely out of the author of Harry Potter's world. I want nothing to do with her. John Boyne, I'm also not super into, and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has kind of said a lot of problematic stuff in the past, and it's turning me off her books to the point where I had Americana on my Kindle and I actually just deleted it because I was like, I'm probably not going to read this because I can't separate the artist and the art in this situation. Question 4 is an author whose books you've read a couple of, but you've decided that they're not for you. So again, we have Leigh Bardugo, but there are also a couple of kind of contemporary romance authors who it's kind of on the fence. If their next book isn't a hit for me, I'm probably going to leave them to the side. So unfortunately, these are people like Vari McFarlane. I've had kind of up and down relationships with her books. I really, really loved Don't You Forget About Me, but her most recent one, If I Never Met You, wasn't such a hit for me. Or you've also got Jamie Adams. I've just read her most recent book and I didn't love it as much as I did her other 2 books that I've read. So there are a couple of authors that it's kind of up and down fortunes for me, and I think all of it does kind of lie on where their next book's going to go. Question 5 is a genre you have no interest in reading, or one that you have tried but you couldn't get into. Fantasy. I'm like the anomaly on BookTube in that so many people are super into fantasy, except that I am just, it's not for me. I love stuff that is set in my world, that I know I've been to this location, I've been through this thing, I relate to this kind of story. Whereas with fantasy, I don't know what it is. It's just not something that I connect with as well as I do with contemporary work. And I'm also going to put horror in here because I have the weakest stomach. And I absolutely know that if I read a horror book and it's full of gore and it's full of murder and limbs being taken off, it is absolutely not going to be the book for me. Question 6 is a book that you have bought but you're never going to read for any reason. Or a book that you have returned to the library or you've unhauled but you haven't read it. So I am a member of a couple of libraries, but I have a borrow box subscription for my local library back in Ireland. And quite a lot of the time I will take out a physical, like an ebook or an audiobook, and I just don't get the chance to listen to it before I have to return them. There's been so many that it's happened with that I just can't remember the names of them. I think as well there's a couple of books that I have bought and I'm probably not going to get to read them anytime soon, but I will in the future. Does that make sense? Does that kind of count? Question 7 is a series you have no interest in reading in, or a series that you have started but you're not going to finish. Take another drink because it's 6 of Crows again. But also quite a lot of V.E. Schwab's books are just not my kind of thing. Like, I don't want to read the Darker Shade of Magic books. I think she has a Conjuring series. That's also not going to be the kind of thing for me because they're more fantasy based, because they're all about magical realism, and those are just things that just don't work for me in books. And finally, question number 8 is a new release that you have absolutely no interest in reading. And for this, it would have actually been The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but everybody kept talking about it and I've bought onto the train and I have bought it, and it's probably the last book that I'm going to buy this year. As for other new releases, I can't really think if there's anything that is completely sticking out in my mind that I am going to hard swerve. I think if there's a big fantasy book that comes out and everybody is getting hype about it and everybody's talking about it, it's probably going to fit into this category. So those are my answers to the anti-TBR tag. Thank you so much to Nicole and her books for creating this, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.